One of you this morning, Shubh Swagatam. Our footsteps having led us here to the Mandir physically, and for those persons who are viewing us online, we welcome you this morning to Satsang and indeed to Puja. Bhagwan has blessed us with a very beautiful, very wonderful day. And notwithstanding our circumstances, this morning we come in a spirit of thanksgiving, in a spirit of gratitude. We ask for the continued blessings not only upon ourselves and our families, but indeed on our entire community and all of humanity. This morning I invite us all to stand as we engage now in invocation mantra and in prayer as we commence our puja this morning. We clasp our hands, assuming that position of reverence as we go within. As we do so, I invite you to gaze at the murtis before you, and whichever form of Bhagwan you find most endearing, most appealing, fix your mind and fix your gaze upon that form. Having done so, close your eyes, the windows to this physical world, and feel yourself being transported to the presence of Bhagwan. O Prabhu, we come before you as your children in all humility. We offer to you our love and we seek your blessing. Hari Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswate Namaha. Om Shri Guru Charana Kamalebhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvara Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadguru Nagindraharaya Trilochanaya Bhasmangaragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaragaya Tasmai Nakaraya Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandramvedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaye Pataye Namaha. Om Manojavam Marutatulyvegyam Jetindriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Varyutamukam Shri Ramadutam Shirishi Namami. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Betiye, resume your seats. As we engage in Kirtan this morning, I invite you all to join together. Let us clap, let us sing, let us glorify the name of Bhagwan. And indeed, let us offer to Him all of our troubles, all sankat, all worries, and indeed trust in Him that all will be removed and that all will be well. We join together as we glorify Bhagwan.
Vinayaka, 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 Vishwadhara Vinayaka, Vishwadhara Vinayaka, Vishwadhara विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विनायका विनायका
विनायका विनायका
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
सुर मुनि वंदित श्री गणेशा
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 विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विनायका विनायका
विनायका विनायका
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
सिद्धि विनायक भव भयनाशा
भव भयनाशा
भव भयनाशा
सुर मुनि वंदित श्री गणेशा
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 विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
विश्वाधारा विनायका
प्रेम से बोले श्री गणेश भगवान की जय. We continue now as we engage in Chalisa, as we glorify Bhagwan. Let us join together once more in Chalisa.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रजा निज मन मुकुर सुधार वरनो रघुबर बिमल जसु जो दायक फल चार बोधिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर राम दूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुवेशा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केशा हाथ वज्र और त्वचा विराजे काली मूंछ जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र की काज सवारे। लाय संजीवन लखन जियाई, श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरत सम भाई। सहस वदन तुम्हारो यश गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सर्काधिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा, नारद शारद सहित अहीशा। यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीना, राम मिलाए राजपद दीना। तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु, लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका विमुख माही, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत की जीते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज संभारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, जिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमृत जीवन फल पावे। चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत की तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारी पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को भावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुपति पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित न धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत संकट बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटहि बंदी महा सुख होई। जो या पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होई सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियापति रामचंद्र जी की जय। शरणम पवन सुत हनुमान की जय।
Jai Bajrangbali, Jai 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 Hanuman. Sitaram everyone once more. For those of you who came in or joined us after we commenced this morning, Shubh Swagatam to each and every one of you. This morning, having concluded our Chalisa, we are getting ready for pravachan or discourse or message. But before we do so, I'd like to invite the teachers of the Bal Vihara class to please move quietly across to the annex where you will be engaged in those classes. And I will invite all of the young ones to please join, even if you're with us for the first time. This is indeed a wonderful opportunity for you to be engaged in a very positive, uplifting activity with very experienced and knowledgeable teachers. So this morning I'd invite all of the children, all of the young ones to move across to the annex. Even like I said, if you're with us for the first time, one of the parents, if they would like to go just to engage in the transition, you're welcome to do so with the young ones as they engage in this morning's activities. As our Bal Vihara class gets ready to commence, this morning we have recommenced our tradition that was the norm prior to the pandemic and the lockdowns and the adjustment in our services and so on a Sunday morning. And one of the things that we had introduced some time ago was to have our Sunday morning service and the discourse in particular include items that are of a very relevant and practical nature as far as it relates to our well-being and so on. So we've had speakers come in the past to address the various topical issues. Many of you would have noticed last week, the week gone by, there was a day set aside known as World Hypertension Day. And hypertension, or as we would say, high blood pressure, is an issue that is very, very prevalent, unfortunately, in this country and indeed in the region and globally. And it has been brought very close to home, particularly because of the pandemic. And when we heard those dreaded words, comorbidities, on the top of the list very often was the question of hypertension. Non-communicable diseases, or NCDs as they are called, is a very major affliction. And just recently, this week actually, at the conference that is being held in Guyana, one of the speakers there noted that in the Caribbean, yes, we have to be fearful about COVID, but we should be even more fearful of these NCDs, which include, as I said, hypertension. We're very pleased this morning, therefore, to have in our midst a young professional who has basically grown up before us and has presented in the past very eloquently, very resourcefully, and indeed very knowledgeably on many aspects. And we've asked him once more, and he's quite willingly consented to share his knowledge and some practical tips and advice for us. And I want you to welcome to the podium with a round of applause, please, Dr. Mitra Maharaj.
Stand, everybody. Nice. Right. Stand, everybody. So, this week gone on Tuesday was World Hypertension Day, and in that light, Pundit reached out to me to speak a little bit about hypertension or high blood pressure. Right now, hypertension, high blood pressure is the same thing, it's one and the same. You could use it interchangeably. Right, great. Right, so it's a small talk, nothing too long, nothing too racking on the brains. Just everything that is common knowledge to most, if not everybody here, is just reiteration and just knocking it into the head again and again and again, and that's what will drive it home. Right. Now, before I start, I always start with this disclaimer. One, I am not a specialist. Two, my advice here is not substitute for any of your doctor advice. Please see your physician if it is you are hypertensive or you think you may be hypertensive. The best thing to get advice from is your general practitioner, your specialist, your physician, right? And I prefer interactive audience, right? So I will be asking some questions. If you could give us some feedback, it will be nice. It's not a lecture. I'm not standing up here to lecture anybody about anything. Right, so what is high blood pressure? Sorry, what is blood pressure? Before we go into high blood pressure, we need to know what is blood pressure. Anybody knows what blood pressure is? I see Dr. Gyan is in the audience, but we wouldn't call on him. No? Well, so it's very simple. We have arteries in our bodies. And what are arteries? Arteries carry blood from the heart to other parts of the body, right? So those are the vessels in our body that carries the blood after the heart pumps the blood to all the organs in the body, all the cells in the body, right? Now, what is blood pressure? Blood pressure is the pressure of that blood flowing through the arteries and the force at which it expresses on the walls of the arteries. And very simple, right? We'll show you a little picture here. Should be able to come up soon. Right, so these are the walls of the arteries, blood flowing through the arteries, and it exerts this pressure onto the walls. And that's what we measure to say, all right, this is your blood pressure. Now, everybody here has measured their blood pressure before? Yes? Anybody here has never measured their blood pressure before? That has no idea what that looks like? Okay, so I assume everybody else measured it, right? Now, this is just a blood pressure machine. So this is what the numbers you would see on the machine itself, right? Now you will see there's a big number or a top number and then a bottom number, which usually is a little bit smaller, right? This is what the average blood pressure machine would look like. You'll get in a pharmacy, some of the health centers and hospitals use something similar to this as well, right? Now, there's a top number and a bottom number, right? What do these numbers mean, right? Now, when the heart contracts, when the heart beats, that pressure is measured to the top, right? It's called a systolic blood pressure, right? And that measures the pressure at which the heart beats and the blood flows into the arteries. Then we have the bottom number. When the heart beats, it also needs to relax, right? And the second number is where, when the heart relaxes, that is the pressure in the arteries at that time. Everybody understand that? I lost anybody? Everybody good? We good so far? Good. Right? So usually the top number will just be a little bit bigger than the bottom number, which is normal. And what is normal? So what is normal blood pressure? Anybody has an idea of what normal blood pressure is? 120/80. Right, I hear 120/80, right? So generally, that's a good start. That is what the guidelines say is normal blood pressure, right? Anything below 120/80, right? Anybody here sees blood pressures higher than that? Yes? Right. Right, so now that we know what is normal blood pressure, what is high blood pressure? Or hypertension? Anybody knows what is high blood pressure? Beyond 120/80, that's a good start. Over 130. Now, high blood pressure, yes, numbers will show us what is high blood pressure. But if you take your pressure once and is 130 on 80, that does not mean that you are hypertensive or you have high blood pressure, right? High blood pressure is where the blood pressure is consistently high. So you check it over a period of time, and all the readings you get is consistently high. Then you could be diagnosed as saying, all right, you have high blood pressure, you are hypertensive. Because again, the blood pressure fluctuates throughout the day. If you're sitting down, relaxing and watching TV, or you're on the beach, blood pressure might be normal. If you're in the hardware, walking around and you're busy and you're dealing with the stresses of the work, blood pressure might be a little bit elevated throughout the day. So blood pressure fluctuates depending on what's going on, right? I run up the flight of stairs and then I check my blood pressure. I have high blood pressure, right? But that's not so, right? It needs to be consistently high and measured at that time at which you are at rest, and gives a true reflection of your blood pressure. Right, so again, just to reiterate that point, one reading is not enough to diagnose you with high blood pressure, right? Now, generally, doctors follow guidelines, they follow recommendations that are based on research and based on evidence put forward by the whole scientific community internationally. Yes, Trinidad does their own research as well, but generally most doctors in Trinidad follow the international guidelines. Right now, there are two guidelines in particular that speak to hypertension, high blood pressure. You don't need to know all these details, but the GNC and the ACCA/AHA, those two are the guidelines we generally follow. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that depending on which doctor you go to and which guideline they follow, neither is wrong, but they might use a little bit of a difference in the guideline and treatment and on what they diagnose as high blood pressure. So one of these guidelines actually say one is 140 on 90, the other says 130 on 80. Now the 130 on 80 was actually the more recent guideline, the more recent study put out, right? So generally, having a high blood pressure is generally if your blood pressure consistently above 130 over 80. If you see in these numbers when you measure it at home, definitely see your physician, see a general practitioner, see a specialist, see a doctor. Right. Now, what causes high blood pressure, or what puts us at risk of having high blood pressure? Anybody knows?
Diet.
Anything? Diet, stress, lack of exercise, genetics, eating habits, correct. So all those things are definitely correct. Anything else? Gender, correct. Now, so generally we break it up into two different categories of risk factors, right? We have modifiable and non-modifiable. Very simple. Modifiable is ones that you could change. Non-modifiable are ones that you cannot change, right? So what are the modifiable risk factors? The things that we could change, the things that we could effect change and do about to ourselves before we develop high blood pressure. Or even when we develop high blood, or even if we develop high blood pressure, what can we do to help that? So unhealthy diets, more particularly high in salt, high in fats, and low intake of fruits and vegetables. Definitely a risk factor to having high blood pressure. Lack of physical activity. Generally, the recommendation for physical activity is half an hour, 3 to 5 times a week, right? Physical activity is defined really as something that will put the body under stress. If it is I just go and walk 2 or 3 laps in the park and call a half an hour and say that I get exercise, that wouldn't work for me because I'm accustomed to a level of higher physical activity. So that's not exercise for someone like me. Exercise is putting the body under that stress or that strenuous activity, right? Tobacco and alcohol use, self-explanatory. Being overweight or being obese. Generally, Trinidad is an overweight population. We don't like to say it, we don't like to admit it, but most of Trinidad is overweight, right? We are accustomed to seeing a particular size and thinking it's normal, but it is overweight, all right? High stress job, family, relationships, financial problems, socioeconomic problems, all these things put us at risk of having high blood pressure, right? All these things put us, yeah, exactly that, right, at higher risk. Right, so those are the modifiable ones, the things that we could change, the things that we could help during our daily lives. So what are the non-modifiable risk factors? Things that we can't change, things that we have no way of changing. What are those things? Genetics. But we can mention gender. Anything else? Well, that one we could change now. Right, so family history or genetics, right? We can't change our family history. That has happened before us. Our genetics, our genes are encoded in us. We can't change that. Well, you could, but for the most part, we can't, right? Age over 65. We can't help our age. We will get older. And we will reach 65 at some point. Most of somebody audience here over 65 already, right? That's something we can't change. We can't do anything about that. And as we get older, our body naturally, the blood pressure in our body actually becomes a little bit higher when you measure it. And that's just because of arteries actually gets a little bit harder, and therefore the blood pressure goes up a little bit. So that happens naturally. That's nothing we could do anything about. Coexisting conditions. Some persons are diabetic, has kidney problems that we didn't do anything about before. So that's why I have a little asterisk by this one, right? Because we could treat these conditions. So they are a little bit modifiable, but for the most part, somebody has already developed diabetes, somebody has already developed kidney disease. You can't really modify that for the most part, right? Our race, right? In our Trinidadian population, Afro-Trinidadians are more at risk of high blood pressure. East Indians are more prone to actually diabetes, right? So race actually does play a big factor. Gender as well. Right, so these are the things that we can't change, we can't do anything about. We are born with these we are born with these factors and we can't change it. So, how do you know that you are hypertensive? What are the signs you could look out for? What are the symptoms you could look out for? If you see these signs and symptoms, what you could do about it? Anybody know any symptom or sign of high blood pressure? Headache. Dizziness. Irritation. Now, headache, dizziness, nausea, these things are symptoms of high blood pressure, but they are symptoms when it is already too late, right? Those symptoms happen when your blood pressure is so high and it causes that problem. So they are not really symptoms of hypertension per se. Hypertension really has no symptom. It's called the silent killer for a reason. We feel absolutely normal. We feel okay. We go about our day, live our daily lives, and feel nothing whatsoever. But our blood pressure is high, right? So the only way to know if you have high blood pressure is to measure it regularly. The only way to know that you have high blood pressure is to measure it regularly. There's nothing that you could see, feel to know that my pressure is high. Some people might beg to differ. The hypertensives already say, well, when my neck hurting, I know my pressure high, doc. That may be so. And I can't fight you on that. That's your personal experience, and that might be so. Right? So the only way to know is to measure your blood pressure regularly. So why measure your blood pressure? Why go through all this? Why even worry to talk about high blood pressure? Because high blood pressure alone mightn't be all of that, but a bigger problem. But it causes these problems, which is a huge problem. It could cause strokes. It can cause kidney damage. It could cause heart failure, heart attacks, vision loss, kidney disease, and sexual dysfunction. Now, for something that has no sign or symptom, it's some bad things that happen. So, measure your blood pressure regularly. Yes, so, and the point at the bottom there is that the good news is that we could do things before it reaches this stage, before it reaches the stage of getting a stroke and heart failure, etc. We can put things in place. We can get our exercise, don't smoke, don't drink alcohol, or reduce those things, and eat properly and these kind of things, right? So we could put things in place. So that's exactly what we're going on to next. What can we do to reduce those things? What can we do to manage if we are hypertensive, or what can we do to prevent having high blood pressure if we haven't reached there already? Reducing salt intake is one. Anybody, before I go on to, anybody know anything else before we go on to it? What can we do to prevent getting high blood pressure or developing high blood pressure? Exercise. The modifiable risk factors, correct, Uncle? Exercise, relaxation, yoga, right? Yoga is a form of relaxation, which for those of you who are in high stress situations, in work, family situations, yoga and relaxation is definitely beneficial. Nutrition, what you eat, right? Reducing that salt intake, reducing the fat in the diet, eating more fruits and vegetables, getting regular exercise, and as you see, there's 30 minutes a day for about 3 to 5 times a week. I don't get that. I mean, I don't know if everybody else has get that here. I don't get it. Right, avoiding the use of tobacco, or if you do smoke, reducing it, and then eventually cutting it out. Reducing alcohol consumption, right? Right, limiting the intake of high foods. Now, these are things we already spoke about. As I said, most of these things we know. We already know these things. We just need to reinforce it, reiterate it, and implement it in our daily lives. Right, reduce and managing stress, and regularly checking our blood pressure. Now, if you are hypertensive, if you already known to have high blood pressure, treating it, getting it diagnosed, and seeing your doctor regularly, right? Managing other conditions. If you are diabetic, if you have kidney disease, those things worsen hypertension and could put you at risk of getting these serious problems that we spoke about. Right, and that is it for my talk this morning. So, get your blood pressure checked. Is not a high score you're trying to beat, right? If there's anything is actually lower you're trying to get. Right, Sitaram, thank you.
So I want to thank Mitra, Dr. Mitra Marat, sorry, for, yes, Mr. Bean, my favorite. But before he departs the podium for just 2 minutes, are there any persons with questions that, based upon the presentation, bearing in mind the disclaimer? And the disclaimer is that if you have certain specific conditions and need specific advice, that you should go to your physician. So this is just about general inquiry if there are any questions.
So the question asked was, what if you have consistently low blood pressure? Now, so I mean, the talk today was about high blood pressure, right? Low blood pressure, sometimes dependent on our size, dependent on our physical stature, our blood pressure might be naturally low, right? If it is that this doesn't cause a problem to you, it might be very normal to have a naturally low blood pressure, right? I don't expect everybody here to have the same blood pressure, right? However, there are some conditions that do cause low blood pressure, so you should get it investigated for sure, and make sure it's not a underlying condition causing the low blood pressure. But generally speaking, if you have a small physical stature, your blood pressure will be naturally lower than most. Thanks for the question. Yes, so the question was if certain medications can raise your blood pressure, and the answer is definitely yes. A lot of medication does have the side effect of raising your blood pressure. It will just be to check the side effect profile of that particular medication, and you will be able to see if it does, yeah. So the question is if it is that you use medications that contribute to having high blood pressure, if exercise and yoga will affect that, yeah? So it will be weighing the pros and cons. If it is that you need the medication for a particular condition and you will have to be on the medication, then the pro will outweigh the side effect of having high blood pressure. Yes, you can use, in fact, you should definitely, if you know that you have to be on this medication, it will raise your blood pressure, put things in place, the exercise, the diet, put things in place to help the other factors that you could help. So maintaining a normal blood pressure throughout our lives is the goal, right? Normal is 120 on 80. As I said, naturally, as the body ages, your arteries actually get a little bit harder, for want of a better word, and naturally your blood pressure raises as you get older. This happens to most, if not everyone, right? Maintaining the normal blood pressure is what we put in the physical exercise. If it is that you're consistently having the blood pressure, high blood pressure, you may need to go on medications, etc. for it. Once there's no other condition causing that high blood pressure. But if it's just natural age, naturally our blood pressure goes up as we get older. No.
Right, so I want to bring the discussion. Any final questions? If not, this morning it's rather coincidental. We have a number of doctors with us, apart from Mitra. So I see Dr. Gyan is here, Dr. Robin Maraj is here. So we have quite a bit of doctors. If I've omitted anyone, please forgive me. The rationale for this conversation this morning is also geared towards what's coming next week. And next week, Sunday, as you know, leads us into the day after, which is Indian Arrival Day. And one of the things that we tend to do on that day would be to reflect about the contribution of our foreparents, from whence they came, where we are today, and where we're going. A very critical component about that is not only the externalities, but the idea of wellness. In terms of, Mitra made the point about genetics being an influential factor. Pandit Devendra, who has very often reminded us that some of the habits that we have by custom incorporated, such as the large parcels of parsad, the sweets and the amount of sweets that we eat, when we have yagya and satsang eating at 9 o'clock in the night and then eating things like paratha and stuff like that, are really not something that is desirable. So all of these factors contribute to us as individuals holistically. And therefore, next week, Sunday, we are also going to be having a guest speaker in a different angle, but in keeping with the theme, obviously, of Indian Arrival Day. So I just want to extend the invitation at that point so that you know where it fits in. I know some of you may be thinking, I came to Sunday morning service to hear something from Ramayana or something like that, right? Or Bhagavad Gita. And that's true. That's all part of it. But Sanatan Dharma is about our total being. And we cannot ignore any particular part of it. And therefore, it was really the view that this morning, you being a captive audience, and by extension, those persons viewing online, that this is very critical to our wellness, because we are our brother's keeper. We want to ensure that our spiritual well-being is looked after, but also our physical and medical well-being as well. And I think for all of us, especially, for example, when we have the blood drives, two very common observations by the nurses who are screening persons would be, one, low iron. So green fig and dashin bush are a must. And the second one that comes about very, very frequently is the issue of hypertension. And I've heard the nurses being very clear about it. You need to watch your diet. You need to exercise and things like that. So those are very important things, and that's when they come screening us here at the Mandir. Krishna Bahadur Singh leading that group. We have 60-something people coming to test, for example, and then not all persons being allowed because of various circumstances. So it's a telling factor. And therefore, I want to thank Mitra again. Please give him a round of applause for that very wonderful message and enlightening message. So you can speak to him privately after, or any of the other doctors who are here, or particularly your physician if you have more detailed questions. Before we go into RT this morning, so many persons who are here after some period of time, we want to extend very special welcome to each of you. But this morning we have a very special guest with us. She is not a stranger at all. Very, very frequently in the Mandir as a younger person. She's still a very young person, and wants to express a few words this morning. We all know her mom very well, our dear sister, mother, aunt, the late Mrs. Sylvia Granger. And this morning I want to invite to the podium for a few moments her daughter, Shireen Granger, who would like to say a few words. So Shireen, please take the podium. Can we give her the mic? It's right. Hand the mic to her, please. It's right at the side of the podium. Yeah. So I hand over to Shireen for a few months. Mic is right there. Yeah.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you very much, Panaji, and everyone for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Wow, it's been many years since I've stood here and given the announcement post lecture. And I just came here as Panaji started. We came here today to say thank you, and we start with gratitude, and that's what I'm here today. Heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Todd Street Mandir, to Sri Sevak Sabha, to the family here at Todd Street Mandir that extended their love and support to my mom and myself and my brother when mom was ill and even after her passing away. As I sit here, as Panditji said, it's many years since I've been here, and a flood of memories come back. I can still see in my mind's eye Uncle Ramnarayan giving the discourse. I can see your dad standing here in his shirt jack speaking. I can see Uncle Yatin and his smile lighting up the room. I can see Auntie Sushala. I remember Mrs. Prasad and Mrs. Devi Prasad sitting and sharing a little joke, and their eyes twinkling. And I say these things because we have to remember the foundation, where we have come from. And I thank everyone here for being part of the foundation of my life, for helping making me into the person I am. And I urge everyone here, do not forget your foundation. Do not forget what the Sri Sevak Sabha was built upon. Do not forget what dharma and what your parents' values are. The baton have been passed to at least 2 different generations by now. And whilst we enhance with technology and virtual and stuff like that, we have to remember where we came from, because if we don't remember that, we can never be our authentic selves. We can never reach our full potential. So I just say that, and I come here and I say thank you very, very much to everyone for your love, support, for your continued friendship. And I thank you very much again from the bottom of my heart. Sitaram.
Thank you very much, Shireen, for being here and for sharing. I know that would have been difficult, and it was indeed very heartfelt. And thank you so much for that reminder this morning in terms of our foundation and us being a brother's keeper. There's so many persons, and Shireen has mentioned so many of them, that have made an indelible mark and contribution to our Mandir and to our Krishna Mandir family. And there's so many persons right now that when we look, we see a little vacant space on the bench. There are persons who are having difficulties as we speak. There are persons who are having challenges, and I urge each and every one of us as our brother's keeper, as ambassadors of this Mandir, if you've missed somebody, take up the phone and call them. You know, young people like to text and message and so on, but sometimes hearing the voice is more valuable way. So reach out to that person. Somebody may be sitting next to you and smiling, but on their shoulders they're carrying a lot of weight. And sometimes a simple expression of our love and our support to them could mean the world. So Shireen, thank you so much for that reminder, and thank you so much for being here with us, and indeed everyone for joining with us this morning, face-to-face and virtually. We will now engage in our communal arti. I hand over to the group and invite you to come forward. Again, just a reminder, please put on the gloves, perform your arti, and when you finish, you dispose of the gloves, sanitize hands, and then you could resume your seats. And remember the physical spacing on the altar as you come forward to perform your arti. Panditji Jai Sitaram. So we invite you to come forward now.
Mrigachala yudha sharir जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज
राम राम हरे हरे
राम राम हरे हरे
We'll have one more bhajan and then we will have our announcements.
कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाई मुरली मुरली आए जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाई मुरली मुरली आए जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाई मुरली मुरली आए जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाई मुरली मुरली आए जादू भरी देखो कुंवर कन्हाई कैसी रास रचाई ऐसी तारीख बनाई कैसी रास रचाई देखो कुंवर कन्हाई कैसी रास रचाई ऐसी तान सुनाई सुध बुध सब बिसराई बाका उछला निराला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसी बजाई मुरली मुरली आ जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसी बजाई मुरली मुरली आ जादू भरी कान्हा कृष्ण मुरारी गोवर्धन गिरधारी कान्हा कृष्ण की थोड़ी सुनते मीठी गारी कान्हा कृष्ण मुरारी गोवर्धन गिरधारी काहे मत की बोली सुनते मीठी गारी आई बड़ी ब्रिज वाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसी बजाई मुरली मुरली आ जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसी बजाई मुरली मुरली आ जादू भरी माखन चूर दुलारा नथ खट सबका प्यारा मन मोहन मन भावन नावरते जग सारा माखन चूर दुलारा नथ खट सबका प्यारा मन मोहन मन भावन नावरते जग सारा माधव मुकुंद मधवाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाए मुरली मुरली आ जादू भरी कान्हा कन्हैया नंद लाला ओ मुरली वाला ऐसे बजाए मुरली
Shri Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai. I invite our PRO, Mr. Babulal, to the podium for for announcements this morning.
Sitaram, dear devotees, I would like to join Pandit Rudy in extending a very warm and cordial welcome to so many of you all here in the Mandir this morning. Give yourselves a round of applause. So nice. We were very lonely without you, and today you have made it special that you could be here. And for all those who joined us online, we'd like to say thank you and welcome to our Sunday morning service. I'm seeing some persons here who have been away for a while, and we want to extend a very special welcome to you all. And we look forward to seeing you all every Sunday with us, all right? I would also like to thank, where's Mitra? Oh, he's offering prayers at the Mauriti. So we'd like to extend our special thanks to Mitra for his very informative and enlightening discourse and helping us to improve our lifestyles. I'm sure each one of us will leave here today with a little bit of knowledge that we can live healthier and maintain our hypertension and so on, including me. We have yoga classes next door on Mondays, so you could join and you'll know a lot about that, maintaining that, all right? So Mitra has been grown up in the Mandir as a little boy here, and we'd like to congratulate him, and let's give him a round of applause. He's so very humble and willing to share all his information. So thank you, Mitra. Next week is a special week for all of us. We have a lot of birthdays we're going to celebrate. Starting tomorrow, we have Vidya Didi, we have Mala Didi, and we have Amy, who's supposed to be here, but she isn't. So we want to wish her, she's probably looking online, happy birthday, Amy, tomorrow. And later in the week, Anil, our Pujariji, very hardworking, he's going to celebrate his birthday on Friday. Let's give all of them a round of applause, please. As Panditji said, next week Sunday, we're going to have a special guest lecturer, and we want to all come and listen to the discourse in commemoration of Indian Arrival Day. So we'd like you to spread the word around to everyone, and you all can join us, preferably in the Mandir, but if not, online. And as we always say, last week if you were here, you would know the cost of running the Mandir for a year. It's over $300,000. So whatever donations that you all could give, or you could let your friends know, that we always welcome these donations for the Mandir, because this is your Mandir. Your donations help us to keep the Mandir looking as how it is, and pay our bills and so on. So we always welcome you. You can check us at the back after, Gangadine, myself, we are there. And we welcome you to donate. We also have some Mandir t-shirts that we had for a little while. We have dropped the price to around $75 for adults and $60 for children. We have some sizes there. You can also see me after service, and we're willing to let you have one. So once again, on behalf of the management and members of the Krishna Mandir, we'd like to thank you for coming this morning, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We want you to have a safe week. Be safe, observe all the protocols, because this virus is still around. And, be safe, and we look forward to seeing you again, and have a safe journey home. Thank you.
We invite you to stand for final arti.
Om Jai Jagadish Hari, Swami Jai Jagadish Hari, Bhakt Jano ke sangat, Das Jano ke sangat, Chal mein dur kare. Om Jai Jagadish Hari, Jo dhyavi तेरा तुझको अर्पण, तेरा तुझको अर्पण, क्या लागे मेरा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे। भक्त जनों के संकट, दास जनों के संकट, चले दूर करे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे।
Hari Om. As we conclude our puja and our satsang this morning, O Prabhu, we've come before you filled with our love and our humility, seeking your blessing, seeking your guidance, and seeking your inspiration. For all of us, we are faced with different circumstances. Some of us are celebrating various occasions. Some of us are coping with difficulties. Some of us are faced with anxiety, especially our students who begin their examinations this upcoming week. That examination in CSEC and CAPE that has been deferred and that has caused so much trepidation to so many of our young ones. They too require blessings and inspiration. For persons who have suffered loss, for persons who have suffered some sort of difficulty, for persons who are facing some illness and some challenge, may the Divine Mother, may Bhagwan in all of His mercy and compassion shower His blessings upon you. Lord, you are mother and father, you are family, you are friend, you are knowledge, you are wealth, you are everything to us. We surrender ourselves completely to you. We join together in closing prarthana. Hari Om. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Jaseka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva Om Asato Ma Sargamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. प्रेम से बोले श्री गणेश भगवान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बिंद्रावन बिहारी लाल की जय, आज शक्ति जगदम्बा देवी मैया की जय, श्री पवन पुत्र हनुमान की जय, प्रेम से बोले श्री सच्चे सनातन धर्म की जय। Introduce around you, सब कोई जय सीताराम, जय सीताराम, जय सीताराम। May we all have a very safe, very productive week ahead. May Bhagwan bless us all. And we look forward to seeing you all with us next Sunday as we have our very special guest speaker in our wonderful program for Indian Arrival Day. Jai Sitaram all.